Okay, so I want to make a paint program, right? So I'm going to go back to our first example. So this is the first example we did in Processing Land. Okay, what does this thing do? Like, what do you see here? Okay, so there's definitely a window that's being made, right? Right, that's the setup part of this. And then in the draw method here, what's special about the draw method as opposed to the other methods in this? It draws a thing, but also it draws a thing all the time. This thing loops through. Like, that's one of the interesting things about the processing language. The setup method, this guy, that doesn't loop. That happens once, and it's done. The thing about processing is that it has this very special draw method. Not all the methods do this. Just the draw one loops through every 60th of a second or some silly thing. So if we hit go on this, this makes this ellipse. Ellipse. That's a circle, right? Remember, we played with this program, right? So this is an ellipse that's 80 by 80, which means that it's a circle. Okay, and it just follows my mouse around, right? So if I click, it turns black, and if I unclick, it turns white again, right? This seems like the start of paint, right? Okay, so let's modify this thing to make a paint program. What do I need to do first? Do I want it to draw all the damn time? Oh, first off, this window is kind of small and annoying. So I'm going to make this window a little bit more manageable. So which one is this first thing? That's the X, which is the width. Okay, so I'm setting the width to 600 and the height to 400, right? It's still got this annoying, like, big circle. So I want to slim down the size of the ellipse. What's a reasonable size? I'm going to go 8 by 8 because I think that's a good idea. Okay, now it's kind of like a reasonable size, I guess. Okay, but it's still following me around. Okay, dump the else. Okay, that seems like a thing, right? Because, like, if this, otherwise this, right? Oh, crap. Now it's, once I click the mouse once, it turned black forever, right? If I click the mouse again, it's still black. It's still following me around. Yeah, let's try a pause. What's the syntax for pause? Cool, let's try this. It doesn't like that. What about this? Okay. Try this. Huh. Weird. I don't know what pause does. Like, it doesn't seem to be doing anything. This doesn't seem to be acting appreciably different than it used to. Maybe pause takes an argument. Pause does not expect any parameter. I don't know what the hell pause does. Okay. Good thought. Yeah, it was a good guess, actually. How about this? When is this thing drawing the ellipse? Oh, yeah, it's drawing an ellipse all the time, right? Because the ellipse isn't in the mouse pressed if. You guys see that? So it's going through and it's asking, did you press the mouse? So regardless of whether you press the mouse or not, like if you press the mouse, it sets the fill to black. Otherwise, it doesn't do anything, but then it draws an ellipse. Okay, so if I take this and put it in this one, oh, this will be funnier. I'm gonna put it in here. Okay, so now I've got it draws an ellipse, but if I click, it doesn't anymore. And if I let off of, oh, now it's black. Right? Why did it turn black there? Yeah, because when I pressed the mouse, the only thing it did was turn the fill to black. And then when I let go of it, it started drawing ellipses again. But now they were filled black. You guys see that? So, good question. So, is the mouse pressed at the beginning? Like when I do this, first off the bat, is the mouse pressed right now? No, it hasn't been pressed, right? So, it's going in here, and it's saying, has the mouse been pressed? No. So then it's doing the other thing, the else statement. And so it's drawing an ellipse. If I click the mouse, it's going to stop drawing an ellipse, right? Because that kicks it into the if part, not the else part. You guys see that? So if I press the mouse, it stops drawing. And now when I let go, what's going to happen? It's going to draw the ellipse, but when I first pressed the mouse, the ellipse fill color got changed to black. So when I let it go, it's going to be black ellipses. Does that make sense, guys? Down with that? Okay, so where do I want this to draw only when I click the mouse? Yeah, it needs to be in the if mouse pressed. Oh, yeah. Do you want it before or after the fill? What about this thing? Do you need the else? Does that need to be else quit? Hang on, let me try this and make sure it's working, then we'll try the quick command. Okay, so now it's not drawing an ellipse. Oh, wait. I should probably check that it actually does draw an ellipse sometimes. Okay, so now it's drawing black ellipses. Cool. Neat. Okay, so I've got it drawing black lines now. That's good. So I can, like, draw faces. Yay! Okay. Cool. Now what? I think I want to try to make... Oh, yeah, I would like to make it update quicker, but I'm not going to even try that today. So, I got this thing to draw. I probably should get the background the color I like it. How do I change the background to white? Background 255, give or take. Because it's fully colored. No, I never explained that.
It's a brightness level.
Yeah. Cool. Drawy thing. All right. Now, my goal is to make a paint program, right? So what else do I need in a paint program? Oh, I probably should try to figure out how to make the button turn green. Or I probably want just a button to change the color. You guys see that? So to make a button to change the color, first, what do you need? A button. Right? Okay. Let me make a rectangle. How do I make a rectangle? Rectangle? What's rectangle take as arguments? Oh, it expects float, float, float. What are the 4 floats in a rectangle? Starting point, and then a width and a height. Right? So what's your starting point for your... Where do I want the button?
We should make it near the mouse, but never at the mouse.
Don't do that. You could make it chase the mouse around. This will be weird. I think this is stories chase the mouse around. Now it's oh, great. Now I'm drawing with squares instead of ellipses. Oh, look, and now it's black. So I probably don't really want it in the draw, maybe, or at least I don't want it to follow the darn mouse around, right? So where do I want it actually? how about not? How about if I go put it in the top left corner and make it fairly good size? Okay. Now I have a rectangle up here. Now it turns black. That's annoying. What color do you want the button? How about, let's make the button turn the cursor green. What color do you want the button to turn the cursor green to be? Let's go with green. Okay, how do I make the button green? What do I need to put in the fill command? And I do want to put it in the parentheses because that's where it's supposed to be. Okay. Okay, now I have a green box, and if I press the mouse, why doesn't it turn black? Yeah, because every time it loops through the draw command, right? It's setting the fill to green, it's drawing the rectangle, and then it's checking if the mouse has been pressed. Which has the interesting and positive side effect of what? What's going to happen if I try to draw over here? What's going on there? Yeah, the rectangle's getting drawn on top. You guys see that? Okay, is that a positive feature? If I wanted to draw on top of the button, where would I put the button? Okay, we could try that. I suspect that won't work, but we can try it. So if I put it below the mouse press thing, yeah, it's still redrawing it every time it loops through, right? You see that? Yeah, I don't really want it to loop through. Like, if I want to draw... Oh, whoops, sorry. Maybe that would have worked. Okay. If I wanted to actually be able to draw on the button, where should I put the button's code? Above the void draw, like out here? Oh. It looks like you're mixing active and static modes. What the heck? What's going on there? This is a thing that processing does that other coding languages don't tend to do. You don't need the draw, right? Like, we were drawing pictures of houses and whatnot, like 3 days ago, without having the draw in there. So what's up with the draw? Yeah, basically, if you have any method at all, you need to put everything into a method. Otherwise, it kind of defaults to assuming that you're in the draw method. That's a great idea. Let's put it in the setup. Oh, cool. Now there's a rectangle, and I can draw on top of it. Feature or bug? You want to be able to draw on top of it? Not really, right? Depends on your implementation, but I think the appropriate spot for that is in the draw method. Okay, and being careful to comment means that I should probably comment what I'm doing here. So, what was this stuff's goal? Like, why was I drawing a green rectangle? I'm trying to make a button, right? So I'm trying to make the green button. Right? That's what the following couple lines of code do. What does this thing do? Yeah, that if thing is my, like, line following the cursor, right? So that's the actual drawing part. You guys cool with that? And these comments are a little brief. If you're making a nice long program, you probably want, like, slightly more elaborate comments. But right now we're kind of prototyping this thing, right? So the comments are maybe up for change. Does my button actually do anything right now? Not a freaking thing. How would I make it actually do something? Wait. Okay, so you're saying someplace here, like under the button maybe, we want a if, and then what condition do you want? You want mouse pressed. Oops. Mouse pressed. Okay, so if we press the mouse and what?
And it's within, and the cursor is within the area defined by the button, then
You guys see that? Like, to make a button work, I need two things. I want someone to click, and I want them to have clicked on the frickin' button. You guys see that? So, my code for this should probably be if mouse pressed and...
mouse X, mouse Y, mouse X equals mouse Y.
Okay, so I need something about the mouse X. Where does the mouse X need to be? Should be between 0 and 50. It's definitely bigger than 0, so I can just put the 50. You guys see that? And then what do I want to do if the mouse is pressed? And you put braces here, by the way. So the braces are telling it which things to do if that condition's satisfied. I'm going to try this just to illustrate something. But yeah, you're right. I really should put a restriction on the y coordinates in there too. What do I want to do in there? Oh yeah, I want to make the fill green, right? Okay, so I do fill. What's green? Okay, 0 to 55, 0. Cool. Okay, so now if I click over here on the button, right, it should turn the cursor green. Oh, why not? Oh. Settings. You guys see that? So we're doing if you press the mouse and the mouse is more the less than 50 over, right? So if it's on the left kind of side of the screen, we're setting the fill to green. But then right here, we're setting the fill to black if the mouse is pressed. Nice. That would work, I think. So if I put in an else, right, so that's if the mouse is pressed and the x coordinate's less than 50, we're going to set it to green. And if it's not, we're going to set the fill to 0. Oops, that's an O. Is that going to work? Okay, so we're black at first, right? And then if we push this, uh-oh.
Because in that box, put it back in that box and press it, boom, green.
Oh.
The second we leave that area.
Oh.
Nada.
Bummer. You guys see that? Crap. I need some kind... What do I need here? I need some kind of a way to what? Like... I need to, like, keep track of what color the cursor's supposed to be, right? You guys see that? And then I can just change it at will. You guys got that? So, how do you do that? Like, what do you need? Yeah, you need some kind of variable to put the cursor's color into, right? So, where do I want that thing to exist? And what kind of variable is it going to be?
Color.
Wait, there's a variable type for color?
Yeah.
Oh, look! That thinks that this can be a color. Is this the right spot for it? Do I want it in just the setup method? No, I don't want it in the setup method at all. This was stupid. Where do I actually want this thing? In the draw method? That's a fair spot. I'm going to put it up here. Because I have a plan. So, what do I want to call the color that I'm going to make? Just so that I can copy and paste code out of my example, I'm going to call it cursor color. Equals, what do you want it to default to? 0, right? We want it to default to black? 0. Thing? Okay. Then what did I want to do down here? So that's got my cursor color 0, right? So that's setting it to 0 to start with. And then what did I want to have happen down here? Oh, yeah. I wanted to make this, if the mouse pressed and the mouse is on the left-hand side, I wanted to make the cursor color equal to that. Oh. But it doesn't like that. You see this? Complaining about the equal sign. It says, consider adding name. What the hell does that mean? Alright, you got to know something special about processing here. So if you go throw color processing into Google, you'll find the API for color has a weird thing. Color's not a variable. It's an object. We don't know what objects are yet, so you can just trust me that when you want to set a color, when you want to change a color variable, you need to tell it that you're changing the color variable. Yep, so cursor color is the color 02550, and that works a little bit like the int command. Right, it turns that thing into a valid color that the color variable can store. You guys with that? Okay, and then what do I want to do otherwise? Yeah, actually we can just dump that, because I don't really care if I don't click the mouse, right? In the box. Haha, nice. Okay, so fill. And then what do I want the fill to be? I want it to take the cursor color value. Okay, so it's black to start with, right? And if I click over here somewhere, it turns green and stays green. Yes! Oh yeah, let's put a no stroke in there. That's a good idea. What's the no stroke going to do? You guys remember? Yeah, it's going to remove the black outline. Which doesn't matter when it's black, but does matter when it's green. Cool. Alright, so now my button turns the cursor green. And that's it, right? Like, it doesn't turn it back, it just turns it green. What's that? Oh yeah, and I have this other thing that I could press down here. So let's fix the could press down here first. So what is my which if statement do I need to change, and what do I need to add to it? Oh, it should be noted, by the way, that the ampersand sometimes will look like it's going to work just by itself, because it's also an operation in here, but you want the logic and, not the ampersand by itself operation. And now it's complaining about everything. So what's it complaining about here? The operator and is undefined for the argument types Boolean and int. What?
Mouse Y what?
You guys see that? Mouse Y what? Yeah, exactly. I need to have some condition on the mouse Y, because this thing right now is an integer, right? And this thing's asking a question. Is the mouse pressed? And is the mouse x coordinate less than 50? And yeah, right? Like, and is mouse Y? Like, so if if the mouse was at the origin, right? At 0, 0, it would be asking, is the mouse pressed? Is 0 less than 50? And 0. That's not a statement that's either true or false, right? So you need to make this a true or false statement. That's what a Boolean is. That's just a way of thinking about truth or falsehood. So what do I need the Y to be? I need it to be less than 50. And now I've got, okay, so if I click over here, it doesn't turn the cursor green. If I click up here, it doesn't turn the cursor green. Cursor's black normally. If I press in the box, cursor is green. Check. Awesome. I have now a button that turns the cursor green. Okay. What else would I like to add to this thing? Oh, yeah. Okay, so I think right now I have a more green button. Right? Like, that's what I've got right now. I've got a button that turns the cursor more green. What is the other button I would like? Dumber. From more green button, I would like a matching less green button. I actually got this idea from one of Story's sketches. He was using the keyboard to turn the mouse different colors. Right? So I thought it would be nicer if I had a GUI like, Microsoft Paint does. So here we go. How do I make a less green button? Okay. So I'm just going to take all this code, right? Because I'm lazy. So now I have this whole business is making an identical button, right? In an identical spot with the same conditions, right? And that's not what I want. What do I actually want here? Okay, so let's make the spot at least slightly different. So say I wanted to scoot it over to the right so it was next to the other green button. To what now?
75 or 100.
For what?
Like a little bit distance from the other.
You want a little bit of padding in between it?
Yeah.
Why? Okay.
Good point. No, 50, fine. 50.
So where do I put 50 in here?
50, 0.
So if I put 50 here, that's moving it which way? Yeah, moving it to the right. Okay, so now I'm going to have two buttons, right? And I still only have my if statement for the one button, right? So what else do I want to add to this thing? Okay, I want to change the fill to 0 at least. Okay, and I need to change... Yeah, the button needs to be in the right position, right? So I need 50 to be smaller than the mouse, X to be smaller than 100, right? Crap. What is it whining about? Surely it can figure this out. Apparently not. Damn it. Okay, so this is now checking 4 conditions, right? Is the mouse pressed? Is the x-coordinate bigger than 100? Is the x-coordinate smaller than 100? And is the mouse y smaller than 50? You guys see that? I changed the fill color. Oh, on the button. You want the button to be somehow less green. Okay. Right, I have a more green button and a less green button. Right, and if I click, my cursor is default black. If I click the less green button, it stays black. That's good, right? If I press the more green button, it turns green. And, moment of truth, press the less green button, it's black again. Sick! Yes! Victory! Right? Okay, now let's do that in steps. So I would like, instead of it making the cursor either green or black, I would like to be able to scroll through the shades of green. You guys think we can do that? No. Probably not. No, we're not using the mouse wheel. You could certainly do that, right? Like you could code a key, or you could code one of the other mouse buttons. Like you could code that the left mouse button makes things fully green. The middle mouse wheel, if you click it, makes things middle green, and the left mouse button makes things black. Sure. But that's really annoying. Right? Because then you have to remember what all the buttons do. And there's no prompts in our little program. So,
I guess you could have buttons add a certain number to the color.
yeah, so I want to go back through and make this thing a little different. I want this first button to make the color a little greener, and the second button to make the color a little less green. So I think I need a new variable somewhere. Yeah, I think I probably need an integer. Where do I want it, and what do I want it to store? I think I want it to store how green, right? You guys see that? So I'm going to make an integer called green. I know, I have boring naming conventions, but that's because I like to read my code. So I'm going to set my green to 0. You guys with that? So integer's now a integer green, right? So there's an integer named green, and it starts at 0. And then if I, what do I want in here? If I press the mouse, I want it to get more green, right? So
Color equals color 0, green plus 5, comma 0.
that's not a bad idea, but I'm going to want to change that also in the other button, right? You guys see that? Like, I want both buttons to change that color. So I think in here, I want to put make green bigger, right? So how do you make green bigger? Yeah, except I want to do it with the green variable.
Right, green.
So I think I want green equals green plus 5. Okay, now this is a weird thing about computer coding that maybe is not obvious to everyone. What does green equals green plus 5 do? Because that in math class says 0 equals 5. Yeah, that makes green, right? It stores into the green place the old value of green plus 5. You see that? So that increments green up by 5. You guys cool with that? And just for the sake of clarity, I'm going to make that 50. Okay, so this thing was making the cursor color green, right? And then down here, I'm also going to fiddle with the cursor color. So do I need that line twice? Like right now, it's only getting activated in the if mouse pressed on the button, right? So if you press the more green button, it gets activated. And then if you press the less green button, you'll also have to call that line. You guys see that? So you're calling this, you're going to call this set the cursor color thing twice. So instead of putting it in there twice, I'm just going to put it in here once. So I'm just going to steal one of those, paste it here, and dump the other instance. You guys with me on that? What am I doing in the less green button? What do you want to do? Okay. Cool. Oh, yeah, and then the cursor color doesn't want to be black all the time, right? It wants to be 0, green, 0. Okay, now we're going to break this. So it's black, yeah? If I hit the more green button, it gets green. If I hit the more green button, it gets greener. Yeah, I can't really tell. Maybe let me turn that step down. Okay, so it's black. And now it's a little green. And now it's kind of greener. And greener. You guys buy that's making it greener? Yeah, that's actually a weird thing, right? Because if I press the less green button seems to work. Well, it seemed to work for a second, and now it's not working. You guys see that? Oh, there it goes. So what was up with, like, why was I clicking like 10 times and it was still black? Yeah, and also I don't have a consistent step size here. You see that? Like the green button increases the green by 5, and the less green button decreases it by 50. That was stupid. Why did I do that? Yeah, because I realized that 50 was too much, and so I changed it in one of them. But that's dumb. Why would you do that? Right? Change it in both of them. Do you want to go hunt for all the 5s in all of your program if you have 10 buttons? Like the end goal of this program would be to have a pair of green buttons, a more green and a less green, a pair of reds, and a pair of blues. Boss. Yeah. Create a variable to store that so you only have to change it in one place. And that's going to be a variable called step, and I'm setting it equal to 5 to start with. Setting it equal to 10 to start with. Okay, so let me check and see if that works. So greening, more greening, less greening. Seems like it's working. Cool? All right. Now, probably we have a problem in that if you click this way a whole bunch of times, it's gonna pretty much stay the same color. Yeah, there's also a problem here that's not totally clear, which is that the draw program runs through how often? 60 hertz, 60 refreshes a second. So let me make a more obvious thing here. I'm going to turn my buttons to the value of green, just so that it's obvious what's going on. Okay, so now this should be the more green button, right? So if I push this, it should get greener, and this one should get less green. You guys with me? I'm not totally sure that... You guys see that when I click, like, once, it's doing, like, a whole bunch of times? Because it's cycling through the draw once every 60th of a second, And there's no way I can get a click that lasts less than, say, 5 or 10/60ths of a second. You guys see that? I would like that to be once, but it's not happening right. You guys with me? So I think I need to add some stuff to this. So that's what I'm going to make your assignment for. Okay? So let me just add that to the top here. Okay, so assignment 4 is going to be, you need to finish this program. Okay? Features I want to see. I want to see if you press more green enough times, it goes back to black. Does that make sense? Like, it should cycle around the top. If you press that button a bunch of times, it should kick back to black eventually. That'll help so that you don't have to use the less button to go back down to the bottom. You can just cycle through. I also want, if you press the less green button, oh, that needs to be a comment. When the cursor is black, it should go to green. Does that make sense? Like, once you're at the bottom, it should cycle around, back around to the top, too. I'm going to give you a hint for that. The hint for that is the modulo command. Further hint. The modulo command in processing doesn't play nice with negatives. Cool? You'll have to figure out exactly how to make this happen, even though the modulo command doesn't do negatives nicely. And I'll give you what the modulo command button is. It's a percentage sign. And then I also want you to make buttons for blue and red. And then I want you to debounce the buttons. In other words, I want you to make it so that if you click the button, it only acts once. It doesn't loop through that a whole bunch of times while you're holding it down. And I'll give you a hint for that. And the hint for that is make a mouse pressed method. Cool? You guys think you can do this? Oh, the other thing you should do. Pat on the back for marking your up/down boxes in buttons, not boxes. Buttons in a nice way. Cool? Good? Everybody understand what they're supposed to do?